të mbështetëm më vonë
shumë me
Zotin Matic e ka një funksion që nështë Kosovë nuk në do këtë qëditëshëm, dhe më thonë është kryetari komisionit për hetimin e gazetarëve të në Sërbia, cili është në miru këtë një të. Kjo të regon që ka pas
orve për me kalëzim Sërbin tjetër si pas gjitha gjasave. A më një më na folë ma shumë prej kësaj perspektive çka është Sërbia tjetër dhe qysh ajo është sfidë për gazetarët me paraqit.
Mirë dita të Bogdan. Mirë dita. Shumë më vjen mirë që prapë në festivali Mirë dita të Bogdan dim keq se 30 vjetë flasim për temat të ngjashme. Kur flasim për Serbinë e dytë, Serbia e dytë, Serbia e tjetër. It's little known within Serbia itself, and therefore this what you brought about about the Bogdan Bogdanovic and the great things that you said. I have to say that in 2022 will be the 100 years of the birthday of Bogdan Bogdanovic, and this year is the 55th year of we built the Jasenovac statue. So nobody mentioned that Bogdan Bogdanovic wrote about it, and therefore in Belgrade there is no names or streets with the names of Bogdan Bogdanovic or any other in recognition of the Bogdan Bogdanovic work, since he constructed the statue of the Jasenovac after the Second World War. When we talk about that, is that we need to build in Jasenovac and therefore we need to talk about this, that many years after the Second World War, of this memorial, we goes in three levels. It's officially Croatian government, then representatives of the victims. Even now they are commemorating it. And I believe that this is something that is a defeat that we cannot find a joint and to eliminate what is the problem, which is to condemn the fascistic and Ustash celebrations that happened over there, and therefore in a joint commemoration in Croatia, which is the Croatian society and the Croatian government. So we need to do those jointly, and we do have problems from the Second World War. And imagine we had a war in 1990. So this joint commemoration that it will have a lot in pacification of the tensions within the Serbia or Croatia itself, and therefore it's the commemoration that will support the process of the of our relationship to go in the future for better. And therefore when we talk about the missing people, there are still people missing, and then there is still wounds for that, and we can see how far we are from the so for this topic there are two commissions, the state commissions, and they kind of protect one another, and therefore it's impossible to find the missing people if we don't do this jointly if we don't conclude a team of Serbian professionals and Croatian professionals and join this effort to find the missing people and of their nation. And this is a humanitarian question, and therefore, in fact, the politicians, they use this for their political daily activities and interests, and then when the politicians and politics are leave alone this type of issue, then I believe that we will have a way better success story and achievements for the missing people, and therefore I believe that it's very important to have integrated process where we face the past, and especially when it comes to the happenings or the in Kosovo and the missing persons issue. I believe it's stagnating, and therefore we are not ready to deal with our past, and to do the practical work that needs to be done in order to find the missing persons, because their family members consider this issue, and it's an issue that brings pain and suffering, and therefore we need, I think, jointly to create teams and try to do better for it, and not to have two types of governmental teams that will hinder one another. And when Bogdan Bogdanovic was alive, was a group of people that connected the activity of anti-war, and during this activity they worked without any hesitation against the war. They talked against the war. They had actions against the war. So this was the initiators of the Circle of the Belgrade, with a list of how many members in '91 had the district of Belgrade, and they had about 50 members, and where Bogdan Bogdanovic was part of it. And in that time, from the radio B92, the radio that was a part of this movement, so it was a huge group of people that where I was a part of the other Sërbia group, and I'm still am, and we went through the process of centralization, and where the Bogdan Bogdanovic, they entered into his apartment. They did the graffiti with the writings as a traitor in his hall, and but what he did, he honored Sërbia not only through verbal opposition, but even with the other activities and actions, and later developed into successful demonstrations, and in the end the participation of the other Sërbia, of movement of Sërbia from the government, it was of a huge importance, and especially after the situation of October 2000, then the new idea came that most of these ideas will be integrated into new programs of the government. Facing the past is the first thing that the democratic forces in the government will deal with, and practically since none of this happened, we lost a good chance, and now we are in a different cycle of the 90s, where we return back to of the revisions of the 90s for the other Sërbia. So that is what brings the old ideas, because we're still seen as the traitors, and the propaganda works at his best at his moment, and therefore this time brought that what the many people, as Bogdan Bogdanovic, moved from their country and left abroad, because it's hard to be concentrated in a wider population where we could engage them in constructive activities for the better Serbia. And I know that in 90s we had more serious support for the other Serbia, but now in the last years we have a lack of support, or I should say that we don't have a fundamental support anymore for this open to society as we had it back in 90s in former Yugoslavia. So now we don't have such an instrument that will help people that think different and that they are against this lunatism. And the definition of the other Serbia of 90s was war against war. And now it's war against the forgottenness and of the crimes, since we live in the time where there is a huge political offensive to cover the crimes, and those who are punished for these crimes to be patriots, or to be shown as a patriots in comparison with those who were against the war and against the crime. So these punished people, when they come back home, they are received as heroes, and is not only in Serbia, but is so the Serbia, different other Serbia is Shkelzen as well, the Veton. And this is where we jointly, back in the day, we cooperated together, and we tried that even later on through the publications, through the summer printing houses, to print many books or many writings of Veton Seroi and Bekim Femiu, and I would like to mention some monumental work that has been done by Butrin Timomi, and therefore we always communicated with them, and there exists a part where the goodwill, the joint goodwill, it's still alive, especially if I go back that Serbia and Croatia should sign a joint association, just like the France and Germany did in 2000. It's been both sides of these two societies of these nations. They have seen me as a madman, because they said what kind of society they are talking about, and this type of society will bring bring new conflicts, and therefore we should not wait that the elite will find a solution or to normalize these type of processes, and then to have some sort of a society that where the society use all the capacities, and to enter the interinstitutional bridges of communication and cooperation, where this event of Mirdita Dobar, where it's dedicated to the relationships, better relationships of Serbian and Albanians. And therefore what we need to regulate from the things from the past is that we are in a situation where there were many there have been many time past where the perception is that the Serbs are the victims here in Kosovo, and that the majority of Kosovars are discriminating the minorities Serbs, and therefore that we need to face the past and to ask for forgiveness for one another, and to try to find the missing ones, and to find a solution for the open questions so far about the murdered colleagues, journalists. We know that 10 years ago we had every year 3 journalists killed, and what they do is they just commemorate the anniversary of their death, and then we appeal to the government. The government says that yes, we will find the perpetrators or the killers, but then nothing happened. And then we came to the idea to create a commission where it did bring the results, where the murder of Zdravko Churovia, where the person received close to 100 years in prison from the Serbian Secret Service, where we have many journalists killed, and I believe that here we need to face this, and I believe that it will be good to have an international committee that will investigate and find the perpetrators of these acts, and this would be a good mission that we could, I believe, work jointly, because since 7 years ago the European Federation of the Journalists brought a resolution that obliged the governments about this question and or issue where we could work to this.
Diçka tjetër me bo bashk.
Yes, now we will give the floor to Mr. Shkelzen Malici, where, as Shkelzen Gashi said, you belong, the other Kosovo too. You were many times labeled, and the labelizing that we talked earlier, and the panelists from Serbia mentioned, from the Kosovo side, but I believe that I would like to ask you, because I know you have the distance in the criticism about this, that we see that what are Kosovo and Kosovars in the eyes of Serbia? What is Kosovo and Kosovars in the eyes of Serbia? So, okay, since you don't hear, I will get my mic closer. I believe that you have so how Kosovo is seen in the eyes of Serbia? Still I don't understand. Yeah. How Serbia sees Kosovo and the Serbs. Kosovo. Yeah, I believe I analyzed in my writings. Many times I talked about it, I wrote about it, but I think I can say that it's a discourse where this book or these fragments of those what Bogdan Bogdanovic mentioned 20 years ago, that he talked about Kosovo. He explains that in Serbia, especially in 80s, from 81 and up, they initiated the propaganda to demonize Albanians in that part, as it was in the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. We knew these things before from the studies that we made from those times, where the Serbia or the state of Serbia had ambitions to liberate all Serbs, and especially then it was created the mythology of Kosovo, where in a mind it was the violent construction, the end of 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, where through these years tried Serbia to enlarge in territory, and And one of the idea of this Serbia is to have the sea coast access, and the Durrës city in Albania was the objective, and they even tried it a few times. They occupied a few parts of today's Albania. Even they arrived at the Durrës in those Balkan wars, and after the Second World War as well, it was a propaganda of Yugoslavian and Serbian propaganda to penetrate and through Albania and reach Durrës, but they could not achieve because the state of Albania, the communist state of Albania, was established and protected those. But the Kosovo was part of remained in Serbia, and it was the animosity against Albanians where it was not as such all the time. In that period they created this type of if I may say, a thought that Albanian it's primitive person or human, and it's not a normal story, because we are the first neighbors. Albanians and Serbs are the first neighbors with one another, and they share some territories, and these relationship throughout the centuries. The book of Petri Timami, for example, that was mentioned earlier, brings in surface all these moments in the history where Petrit found, where so if we go to the Serbian sources from the 19th century and early with their essays, you cannot find that type of hate or hatred writings as it was in the specific periods. And Serbian propaganda is similar to what it was then, because what happens in 80s, especially 90s, it was just a renewal of these discourse or approach that was propagated by the older Serbia. And when we derive the parallel elements in it, when we talk about the other Serbia, the other Serbia itself was not a product of reaction of the momentum situation, but it had his own history that goes from the end of 19th century and beginning of the 20th century. Even then, it was a movement of group of intellectuals, writers as well, that understood the reality, and they were against the conquering ambitions of the Serbian government then, and the wars that they have initiated. We have social democrats, Serbian social democrats, Serbia, Tucovic, Kacerovic. They were young lads then, and they were very developed and open-minded. And the book of Dimitrije Tucovic, I believe that the book Serbs and Albanians, it's the monumental book that explains and foresees as well, if you read it in that time, that what's going to happen with the relationship between Albanian and Serbian relationship if these homogenist policies continue. And Mr. Tucovic foresee it as well, even though that Albanians then were economically inferior. He said that 100 years after we had he says that the Albanians are just like every other nation, but only that they have a delay in some of the developments as the people in Balkans do, and therefore it was Bogdan Bogdanovic was very effective, and many people through the Communist Party in Serbia were through the two wars. For example, the Communist Party had totally different approach towards the issue of Kosovo in comparison with the Kingdom of Yugoslavia before, and therefore they still believe that the leaders of the Communist Party, their leaders thought that Serbia unfortunately divided Albanian nation in two parts. The territory that supposed to belong to Albanians, it was separated. Even the Communist Party after the Second World War and the Communist League of Yugoslavia as well integrated those things, and thanks to those, all the leaders, for example, we had some of the distinguished members where Albanians in Kosovo, where they are in Kosovo, should have all the rights, and they formulated the type of developing program for all in Kosovo. In the beginning, the autonomy of Kosovo was restrained, and the difference between Vojvodina, which with one sort of automatism received political autonomy, and the Kosovo was more like a province. In Serbian language, you can explain the differences, which is oblast, which means the territory, and Krajina, which means the province, and the province was way later brought in their vocabulary for Kosovo, and therefore during the communism this was the agenda, and that the Albanians should develop and be part of Yugoslavia, should be integrated. And of course the Albanians were not educated to that level, and they were not prepared for such thing, I believe. But in time of Fadil Hoxha and other Kosovo communists, we were minorities. They worked in this element to emancipate Albanians, and then when we have the Tito said no to Stalin, the Inform Bureau, the famous Inform Bureau of that time in 50s, where for Yugoslavia as it was, it gave quite a significant push to choose their own independent path of development and to find their own path within the socialism. So they should not copy, they did not copy the Stalinism, or not to copy the Stalinism. So this is a long story if I go in it, but what I want to say is that the second Serbia, or the other Serbia, is something within within Serbia, and they always went back to Tucovic as the authority, even though they had the statue of Mr. Tucovic in Belgrade, where they moved it because they said it just hinders the traffic, and I don't know if it still exists or they replaced it somewhere, and it's been marginalized and it needs to be forgotten, it seems like, to their policies. And seems like Bogdan Bogdanovic did not want to forget that, and the logic of, if I may say, of the equivalence or coexistence in the region of people does not allow these exclusivities. if I may say, that or creation of the states that would be the enemies with one another for centuries. Simply put, sometimes I get lost like this. So, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Shkelzen wants to add something. As previously mentioned, Shkelzen, Tucovic, and other writers, I need to mention that all this intellectuals of Serbia that create the other Serbia, they are part of the old social democrat Serbs figures that we mentioned, and since 1912 and 1913, when Serbia violently occupied Kosovo and created many wars, many massacres, they had a newspaper that is called the Fighters Newspaper, or editorial, and in one of the books, Tucovic said, we tried to do the suicide against one nation. And they said that we have data for the terrible crimes of the Serbian forces in Kosovo that they are so terrible that newspapers foresees edits not to publicize those. And what I would like to say one thing is, I forgot to mention one thing that in the beginning, is that it's important to see how these are percepted from the state of Serbia and accepted, and they have been evaluated as traitors. They've been attacked, they've been marginalized, and many. But within the Albanian nation, they were seen with mistrust and they were ignored. So we don't have those social democrats of these magazines of that time published in Albanian, because the other Serbia existed before. Yes, yes, we have Tucovic 1-2 when in the Rilinja newspaper, a daily Rilinja newspaper during the communist times here in Kosovo. But what have, through Serbia, on the eyes of Serbia and the government, have been seen as the traitors. And in one of the interviews that he gives in '98, the media says that you are the traitor of Serbia. That was the question of the journalist, and his answer is extraordinary. He says, yes, absolutely. I am the traitor of the Serbian Serbia, as Serbia is today. Because all in Serbia are traitors, because each and every one of them hate one another because they are traitors. Yes, Serbia betrayed itself. That's why I'm a traitor too. Therefore, careful, one small nation that came and accepted in Europe when they came, and to be seen today as the monstrous nation, we need to be careful on that. So, but how? I would give you two examples. Mr. Malici probably has an opportunity to give an example on how they portraitize it. The other Kosovo after '99. The first person is Adem Demoshi, that in '99 he was a representative, political representative of Kosovo Liberation Army, and after the war it was most vocal supporter of the protection of the human rights of the minorities and against the infringement of their rights. And where he speaks in the stadium of Pristina, where the process of demilitarization of the UCK starts, and he calls and says, do not attack Serbs, do not attack Roma, Ashkali, or anyone in here, because they are our value and our wealth. And of course, the people yelled at him, they were against him, but then he responded, I know, I still love you because you do this out of your stupidity. And imagine how other people were judged if somebody else would say that that was not a important element figure in our history as Demaci was. For example, one article in Coauditore in 1999 against the murder of the Serbs, which the author is Veton Seroi, is how the reaction against this article or writings were editorial. I believe that I was in gymnasium that time. There was a counter article written in Kosovo Press with a Serbian title, Gospodin Mr. Seroi. And now we can see how he was judged when he protected the minorities of that time. Yes, I thought that you were a moderator. Yeah. Thank you from the the pre-talkers that I would not like to go back to the time, but I think I need to mention one of the names when we talk about the other Serbia, and that is, and I see only the name of the men in this book and in this panel. As a female, I would like to speak short. I thought that we're going to have an entrance, but this is okay. I think I can deal with it. But I really feel sad that I don't see and I don't read the female names or women names in here. The female contribution of the other Serbia for the resistance against war in Serbia. There was a face of woman in there. It was carried by women, and that dealt with the most important things in Serbia. And unfortunately, some names are not here, which is Borka Pavlicevic, where her name needs to be mentioned, or it deserves to be mentioned more than one time, and not only in Mirdita Dobardan, and where nobody in Serbia opened the door for this type of festival. Then she accepted this festival, and so we could talk about these topics. So her courage was there, and I believe that only would respect us where they was supported. She was supported by the world as well, and there is. I have to say that all what is left to be done is left to be done by us. And there is a saying that we don't have many partners in this type of struggle. I believe that we need to cooperate more, and then I believe that me, since I was 22, I started to fight this type of the important topics of that time, and I, frankly speaking, risked my health and my well-being for this matter for 22 years. And what we need to mention the people who did good to carry the good part of the Serbian-Albanian relationship, of the small character that we are building, and so far about the issues that we need to face. It's still there and waiting for us, and I don't think so it's going to wait for another 30 years, and therefore we need to discuss a lot about this. And we need to face the future and to work jointly in the perception, for example, of the females and their stories that we can discuss among Serbs and Albanians in how to advance the women's position in both nations. And I believe that this is a unification topic that could unify us in the future cooperation, and therefore I believe that the festival Milita Dobar it's very important because always brought some topics of the momentum and the challenges that it was always targeted joint points of discussion for both nations, and this developed better understanding for one another and and good understanding, especially when we talk about Albanians and Serbs, and we read about it a lot and how this nationalism took place and gained turf, and now it's proven that we have many common things that we can discuss in the future, and we can develop the future intellectuals from Albanians and Serbs that they can discuss and face the past of both nations. Because what frightens me that we're going to have Vasil Stojanovic, the new Vasil Stojanovic, new Bogdan Bogdanovic, Srđan Popovic, that will that in an articulated format would talk about all these that eats the Serbian society from within, I should say, or consumes it. And this is how we should deal with the facts, because now we have the problems that even the things that are happening now are presented to the Serbian society incorrectly. And I have a fear that how this will be presented, all this what we are talking, and I believe this is a revisionism that we are discussing about, and therefore I hope that I was very clear on my statement and to say what I mean and what I think, and I believe that such a debates are not overwhelming or enough, so we always are welcomed, and therefore the participants of the Serbian media that I see here, I'm so grateful to see them here, and I believe that BIRN is one of the organizations that leads this, and it's the basis of the development of society that we would like to see. I would like to open the question and answers for the panelists. Greetings to you all. I don't have any question, but I have a comment. You panelists that we have here, you know, and you know more, and you've been through what Bogdan Bogdanovic wrote. So I read the book earlier. What impresses me is that as a person that I was born in 90s, and I believe that problem of the interviews of Bogdanovic not that increases my interest to it. It gives me as well it enriches me with the historical context. I believe that I suggest to each and everyone to read, especially to my peers, to read it. And what I read the book, and my first impressions were that how I should give this or pass around this book so they could read it, and especially I could pass this to the Serbian people in Serbia, that they are my peers and my generations, and especially how Mr. Bogdan Bogdanovic is impressing how he sees the end of Milosevic and how he foresees exactly all the things that happened and situations that happened in Kosovo. and therefore one more thing that I would like to add is, and when I read someone that by name and family name is Serbian, it's an intellectual, and always think that does he has a sympathy for Albanians, and that leads him to fight against the regime. But no, actually he understands Albanians, and then he understands it, he feels the Albanians, and then he reacts, and then the love for his Serbian nation as well brings him to this rational opinion that he had in the 90s, and which enriches my opinion about rational thoughts about the other Serbia. I would like to talk about pertaining about the other Serbia in Serbia, and especially the all the research that has been done, and it's well known for the situations and the occasions that happened in Kosovo. For example, Nadasha Popovic, and from the newspaper Spornik, from the war times, we have many articles, because most of them do exist, and most of them has been written in the Research Fund for Human Rights, and there are many other things that exist as a materials or written materials that they could be in the rank of these citations when it comes to Bogdan Bogdanovic and other things as well, where they did a lot of research, and they did the research on the situation of the human rights here in Kosovo, and many things were done by thanking the fund of the Helsinki, and which are the part of other Serbia, and therefore it is I believe that it's very important for this to be translated and to be accessible, especially in internet, because the books as physically are read less. And then now, since it's accessible in internet, I believe it's easier to access, because Petrit lived in Belgrade, and he wrote this book with his soul and dedicated his life in this relationship between Albanians and Serbs. I read the manuscript of his book, and I said to Mr. Mustafa to support this, because the government of Kosovo supported this book. And when you see that the relationship between Serbs and Albanians were fragile, but I asked them, Mr. Issa Mustafa, did you read the book? He told me no. Then after he read it, he called me and he said that the book is written with a tremendous warmth and approach that should unite these our two nations in one cause. And when I published the book of Bekim Femiu, I believe that Shkelzen said that it's one of the best novels written in Albanian, but it's a distinguished novel or act or where in extreme detail gives the explanation about how to write, and Mr. Bekim knew very well how to do that, and easily it was easy to understand everything in details about the Albanians, and 95% of these things I did not know and I did not felt. And therefore then I go back to this part of the emotion where We see that one of my closest friends, Albanian friends that I met in Belgrade, is Bekim Femiu and Veton Siroj, and I see Albanians through Albanians, through Shkelzen and through people that I communicated and worked with, and therefore I believe that I feel very good when I communicate with them and incite what they say, or rethink the meetings that we had before, and it's good to see this through the scientific pictures and the historians. They see it from the side and they cite their sources, but what is important is to know that that is always such people existed and with all their hearts they love and respect the other nations, and therefore I have this love for the Albanians in a similarity as I have for Croatians. And maybe it's not very popular topic to discuss about now, but we need to talk and to be felt, and we need to do more about it. Yes, I would like to add something about the project, and of course it's to be commended the efforts to publicize the series of these books, and it's a brilliant idea. It's not an ordinary thing to do, and I believe that sometimes we think that it's chosen all the things that they liked, the author liked. Therefore, I would like to go back to one of the writers in the territory of Yugoslavia. I lived in that Yugoslavia and educated myself in that Yugoslavia. I was very close with that opinion. I would like to continue to publicize other writings and essays about the war, about the other concepts, concept of urbanism, and especially what has to pertaining the war in Bosnia, and this is the book number 1. But for example, we worked on other things as well. But we produced a book of the Mladinka Perovic, and it was very well accepted, and I think that it's just a small fragment of her monumental work. And it talks about the relationship between Serbia and Russia and socialism, and mentions Tucovic, and we are neighbors, but we don't know each other very well. And not so many things have been translated, which are substantial. And for some time, I was the consular of Edi Rama, and I helped the process for many years. We had invitations for different type of festivals, where we went to the show there. Not many of them were ministers, and even in Serbia, even in Kosovo, it's a similar thing. When somebody has an impact, for example, there were Romeo and Juliet shown in Albanian and Serbian, and received a prize of 400,000 or 500,000 euros, and with that money we translated some of the authors and their work. But I believe that to your young generation, you should continue with their work and to know each other better, because we are neighbors, and we did not have good relationships for a certain time, but I believe that we need to learn to live among one another and to be two states or three states. I'm not being prejudiced towards the political decisions, but we should continue to live together. And it's a substantial, the mutual recognition of the states. Thank you very much. This is the last question. I see the risen hand. I believe that it's very important that this literature that is friendly towards the Albanians from Serbs, I think that it should be translated in other languages, not only Serbian and Albanian, French, English, or German, because the reason why, because many of our young Kosovars live abroad, and as is my case, I am here only for 4 days, and they don't speak Serbian, but they speak the language of where they live, French, German, or English. And therefore, even though they don't live here, Serbs and Kosovars or Albanians, they don't live in Serbia and Kosovo, they are highly connected with their country, and therefore I believe it will be good to target them as well. And I believe that they are the ones as well who can create bridges of relationship, better relationship among these two nations, but as well to explain and show the different, the other reality of Balkans for the Western countries and the Western society. Because I live in Switzerland for 27 years, the majority of the people, apart from the historians that studied the Balkans, they don't know the reality of Balkans. Only negative things kind of filtered through their information. So only those that are visible in the TV, negative things that can be seen. And therefore, I believe that this, for example, in the news, every day and many days, throughout days, they talk about the problem of north of Kosovo. But then these type of initiatives, they never emerge in the surface to be heard over there. And I think that Imagine over there is way, this problem is it's more shaped as a negative problem, or the problem that that brings negativity in their mind. So therefore, I believe that this other approach, it's a good approach, will be good effort, so we could jointly move forward. Thank you very much for bringing this perspective from the diaspora, because even the Serbia and Kosovo, they have very highly developed diaspora. I think I saw another hand written. So for your information, so just for your information, the other Serbia, it's in English, Albanian, and Serbian. And every Medita Dobardan project is in both languages. I would like to commend you for such a book, for the moment that you presented this book. And here through this, people represented Kosovo as well, where they tried to find brighten elements and examples of the people that they were erudites during their time. And the people who serve to increase the humanism, collective humanism feeling, and I believe that this work should not be stopped, should continue, and more space that you find to to approach the public, it will be better. So I would like to say that the same thing that what Skelzen did, and I believe that the same thing should continue in Serbia, because they need to find this public opportunity, that more media to approach to these type of people, and so we did come to the to not have the time occupied from ethno-nationalists, because we are witnesses of the exploding of this type of initiatives of radicalism and nationalism. But we need to bear in mind that we need to do whatever we can to stop that. Was where we had we had a meeting of the Prime Minister of Serbia in Raška, where the Serbian people complain about the Albanians, and then we had the same saying as the Milosevic said to the Serbs in Kosovo, that nobody would bother, nobody would dare to touch you again. So our society will have a huge respect for you, especially when you were in a positions where you had a key role as a counselor of a prime minister. You stayed trustworthy to your ethics and your beliefs and your character, and therefore, as a citizen of Balkan, I really commend you for your stance. Thank you very much. There is someone who wants to say, please lift your hands, because the mic will not see you. Yes, greetings. I would like to say that as the objective is to shatter the opinion of other Serbia, and I believe that we need to start in the high school with the other Serbia, and I really agree that the diaspora should be included, but I believe that we should start from the from the high schools with the books of other Serbia, because in our books, not that it doesn't say that other Serbia exists, but they have such a biased approach towards Serbia as well. And then if we want to do some changes with them, I believe that the proper approach should be done, and there, because it's not unknown that the youth is not reading very much now, or a lot, but they need to go in the school through some of the historical books. And what I think is that if we want to have an impact, and if this is an objective, not only to change the opinion, but I believe we need to throw away our history books, because definitely there are miserable books written about our neighbors. Thank you. Time for this panel is ended. One more time, I would like to mention that this is organized by Integra, Forum CDF program in Kosovo, and it's supported by the Foundation of Kosovo for the Open Society, Rockefeller Brothers Fund, and other organizations, and the municipality of Pristina, where they gave us where there is combined the intervention of the architecture, the nature, and everything. And therefore, I would like to close this discussion, and I hope you will follow the other events. Thank you.